America's granddad and favorite curmudgeon, Bernie Sanders, went on the Joe Rogan experience the other day, and they have a little bit of debate. Now, Joe Rogan have ever since he has moved to Austin, Texas, he has gone in a very right-wing direction. I think COVID broke his brain, and he is all about conspiracies and what have you. Back in the day when he was living in LA, he was talking to lots of different kinds of people, including Bernie Sanders, which he had on his podcast way back in the day when he was running for president in 2019 and 2020. And he had Bernie Sanders on his podcast, and he agreed with him with a whole bunch of stuff. Well, this time around, it seems it was not quite as congenial as it was back then when he kind of half-heartedly endorsed Bernie Sanders. Now, Joe Rogan and Bernie Sanders talk a lot. Mostly it's kind of a boring interview, not because I don't like Bernie Sanders. It was mostly boring because Joe Rogan was talking a lot about AI. And they had a couple of moments where they had a little back and forth, and Bernie looks pretty exasperated because he's trying his best to be patient and kind. And oftentimes I think he's a little bit too patient with Joe Rogan, but that's just who Bernie is. And one thing that they didn't talk about, which I feel really frustrated about, because Joe Rogan, even though he is a consummate Republican bootlicker, and the Joe Rogan experience has turned into a waiting room for billionaires to come through, like Elon Musk and Mark Andreessen and Mark Zuckerberg and the like. So he has all of these billionaire guys coming through his show, and shitloads of right-wing pundits like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and what have you. And the thing is about Joe Rogan is that Joe Rogan is a bit of a cipher. He does not seem to have thoughts of his own. It's just whoever he's talking to, he just kind of nods his head in agreement. He's like, yeah, man, let me take another hit of that thing. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, 100%, absolutely, 100%. And this it's gotten considerably worse since he's been in Austin, because now he's not talking to like regular folk as much as he used to. He's not, mixing it up with liberals and conservatives. He is kind of like just hanging out with a whole bunch of conservatives and a whole bunch of his comedy bros that he has taken under his wing that are basically just yes men for Joe Rogan. Anyway, one of the things that I wish they had talked about was the ICE raids. Well, what's going on with the ICE Gestapo snatching people up off the street. And I have seen Joe Rogan, in the recent past going, man, this whole thing with ICE is kind of fucked up. And if Bernie had gotten a chance to talk about that instead of talking about fucking AI for like an hour and 15 minutes, then maybe they would have been able to get to an important topic like what ICE is doing, and maybe Bernie would have been able to sway him with that, but they unfortunately did not get to that. Anyway, they only seem to have really one contentious back and forth, and that is in regards to billionaires having way too much money and way too much influence in politics. And since Joe Rogan has had so many billionaires on his show, he was at the inauguration where we saw, Donald Trump had thousands and thousands of his supporters come out in January for the inauguration. He's like, it's too cold outside. How about we have it inside with all of our billionaire friends? And you saw them all sitting right there in the front row, preferred seating, for the inauguration. Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg and, the Google guy and, Ike Perlmutter and all these wealthy, elitist billionaire types. I hate the elitists except for the ones that give me all the money in the world. Thank you very much. And Joe Rogan. He was there at the inauguration. He has become part of the club. I've seen clips of Joe Rogan talking about how he's alluded to the fact that he has Donald Trump's number and has conversations with Donald Trump. So he is now in the club. And Elon Musk and all those rich guys, they're all bros now. They're all buddies. And here comes Bernie Sanders trying his damnedest to, to break through, the blockhead, the big fat bone callus that's on the front of Joe Rogan's head. And he's having a difficult time. So anyway, let's have a look and see, what Bernie has to say and what Joe immediately, anyway, he's got brain rot, man.
The other thing is I want people to be able to take control over their own government. We can argue what the government should or should not do, but I don't think we can allow a handful of people with incredible wealth to control both parties.
Well, it's dangerous.
It is.
It's very dangerous, and I mean, no one the founding fathers of this country never saw that coming.
That's right.
They made this incredible system of checks and balances.
You got it.
But who could have ever possibly saw that coming?
And what I worry about Trump,
Bernie,
is you're right. I read, it is astounding back in the 1780s when these guys wrote the Constitution, how perceptive they were.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they said
their understanding of human desires and the power and all the corruption.
Exactly.
Pretty amazing.
And they wrote that having just fought a war and won a war against the most powerful despot on earth, the King of England, right?
Right.
And I think in the back of their minds were saying, all right, we just beat the King of England, absolute power. How do you create a new country which has checks and balances so that nobody ever has that power again? And I got to say, I mean, one of the things, and there's a lot of arguments about Trump, that worries me very, very much is this movement toward authoritarianism and going after media, suing media, taking away the authority that Congress has.
When you say suing media, are you talking about the CBS lawsuit?
Among other things.
Right, but don't you think there's a real issue with what they did?
No.
No, absolutely not. And, people talk about Donald Trump and, he's a free speech guy. Donald Trump, he's all about the free speech. But free speech, freedom of press, First Amendment stuff, Donald Trump is one, if not the worst person when it comes to freedom of speech. I got a list here of the shit that he has done. Let's see here. He wants to open up the libel laws to sue journalists. He wants to sue the Des Moines Registry for a poll that he didn't like. That's a woman named Ann Seltzer. He sued CBS over editing that Kamala interview, which, by the way, I have here, and I'll show you. He sued ABC over what Stephanopoulos said. Stephanopoulos said that he was criminally convicted for sexual assault, and what he should have said was that he is liable for sexual assault. But that was enough to incur a lawsuit from Donald Trump, which, by the way, many of these major news companies are capitulating and bending over backwards and paying Donald Trump off on lawsuits that they could easily beat, but they do not want to rock the boat. And a lot of those executives from those major cable companies were at the inauguration, so they paid up front and they paid lawsuits. Let's see. He sued Simon & Schuster over a book. Bob Woodward wrote a book and he quoted Donald Trump, and Donald Trump didn't like being quoted. So he sued Simon & Schuster. He's threatening to delicense news agencies that criticize him. I mean, this is some authoritarian shit. He wants to punish flag burning with a year in jail. It was ruled on in 1989, and Justice Scalia gave the deciding vote. Right-wing, deep red, conservative Antonin Scalia said that it is, that is freedom of speech, and they won that case. But yet Donald Trump wants to punish it with a year in jail. He sued CNN for $470 million because they referred to his 60 lawsuits, which he lost all of them, over the 2020 election. Kept saying that they stole it. They stole it. They stole it. They're trying to screw me. They stole it, folks. They're doing some kind of fuckery going on. Something is going on. If I'd have won, I wouldn't say anything. But since I lost, it's fuckery. There's no way I could have lost. And after 60 court cases, CNN started referring to it as the big lie because it was a big fucking lie. But nevertheless, he's suing CNN for $470 million. He charged and arrested 6 journalists for felony writing because they happened to be at a protest. He gag ordered the EPA from talking about climate change. Freedom of speech, except when I don't agree with what you have to say, then you do not get freedom of speech. He wants to deport protesters of the war and the genocide in Gaza. He wants to remove visas from those people, and he wants to jail journalists who reported on the Supreme Court abortion ruling, because at that point, if I'm not mistaken, what's his name? Justice, God damn it, I can't remember his name. Not Clarence Thomas, the other psycho right-winger. Well, there's 6 of them, but anyway, there was some leaks going on before the ruling came out of overturning Roe versus Wade, and leaks came out letting us know that that was the way that they were going to rule. Honestly, and a lot of lawyers agree with me on this, that that judge, God damn it, I'm drawing a blank on his name, that he actually leaked it himself, to get that information out there, so people wouldn't be, so shocked when the decision came down. But reporters were reporting on that, and he said that those people should be in jail. So when you talk about frivolous lawsuits and Donald Trump being a free speech guy, for God's sakes, man, he sued Bill Maher over a fucking joke. And I'm not a big fan of Bill Maher, and I believe that the joke was, because Donald Trump has got orange hair and orange skin, he compared him to an orangutan, and he says, if you can prove to me that your mother didn't have sex with an orangutan to have you, then I'll give you $5 million. It was a joke, but Donald Trump is like, here's my birth certificate. And that was right during the time when he was going off about Barack Obama's birth certificate. So that's why the joke was funny. And he goes, here's my birth certificate. My father was a real human being. He was not an orangutan. So give me my $5 million. This guy does not give a flying fuck about freedom of speech. He never did. Anyway, so let's let Joe Rogan cook a little bit more here.
You don't think that there's a real issue in editing conversations to give someone an answer
Joe,
that's different than what they really answered?
Joe, I've been on 8 zillion shows, right? In my life.
Okay.
Now, should I sue you if you ask me some stupid question that I don't like, right? Or that you do something? Should I sue you?
Yeah, but that's not what he's getting.
Well, he has sued.
That's literally what he's doing.
ABC. Mm-hmm. He has sued Meta. He is suing the Des Moines Register because of a poll that came out during the campaign that he didn't like. All right.
By the way, just to refresh your memory on the Ann Seltzer poll, she predicted that before the election in 2024, she predicted that Kamala Harris was slated to win Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa by 4 points. And Donald Trump, after he won, by the way, she was wrong because Donald Trump won by like 10 points in Iowa. But she was wrong, and after Donald Trump won, he just decides he wants to sue her. It's like, dude, first of all, you won, man. What the fuck are you suing for? She was wrong. But his idea is that, since, they said that Kamala was up by 4 points, then that would mean that, that Republicans would not go out and vote. Actually, it's the other way around. If you are a Republican in Iowa and you see that Ann Seltzer from the Des Moines Registry says that Kamala is up and you're a Republican Trump supporter, that's going to inspire you to be more adamant about going out and voting, not less. But for some reason, just because Donald Trump is like, I don't like anybody and I'm suing everybody, he's the most litigious man that I've ever seen. He's constantly in court, mostly because he doesn't want to pay his employees. Back when he was a wannabe building builder, he would cut off payments after the building was like 90% built. Then he would say, oh my God, I'm totally bankrupt. I can't afford to pay anybody. And then all of those contractors, electricians and plumbers and builders and what have you, all of a sudden they're not getting paid anymore. And Donald Trump's like, okay, sue me. So that they would have to take him to court, and he would tie them up in court for 2, 3, 4 years until they were completely out of money. And then Donald Trump would offer them 20 cents on the dollar, and they would take it because there was no other recourse. Donald Trump did his job. That's how Donald Trump has always made his money, by not paying his people. And he loves to use the court system. He loves it. So, this is no different. Now he's just suing news agencies and journalists. And the fact that they are giving into them, it's really fucking frustrating to me to watch, heads of huge networks bending over backwards, giving Donald Trump whatever the fuck he wants.
He is suing CBS for this Kamala Harris interview. So do I think, how many, I cannot tell you the number of stories done about me that were not good stories.
Right.
That were dishonest stories.
Oh yeah, yet again, another memory refresher for you. Back when he was, Bernie Sanders was running in 2020, I think it was 2020, not the 2016. I can't remember. It was one of them. But the Washington Post did 16 negative opinion news articles in one day on Bernie Sanders. 16 negative articles in one day. So if anybody has been maligned by the media, it's Bernie Sanders, but you never see him bitching about it.
It's what a free press is about. You don't like it, you got to live with it. All right? You do something, I'm not going to sue you, Joe.
Right, but it's not that simple, right? Like,
yes,
let's
it is.
Imagine, let's not talk about Trump, but let's talk about another candidate. Let's just imagine.
Let's just come up with a hypothetical off the top of my head. I mean, he's doing everything he can to defend the boy that he endorsed. Donald Trump, one of the most outrageous liars. 30,000 in his first term. 30,000 confirmed fucking lies. Gets on Joe Rogan, he says the most outrageous shit, like, I never said lock her up. Oh my God, how many times has Donald Trump said lock her up? I mean, that was his mantra. His people would repeat back to him, lock her up. That's right, folks, lock her up. And they'd be, lock her up, lock her up. That's right, folks, lock her up. We're going to lock them all up. That guy went on Joe Rogan last year before the election and said, I never said lock her up. I don't know what you're talking about. No, that's not true. He lied right to your face, Joe, and you just fucking swallowed it down.
Someone on the right and someone on the left, and there's a concerted effort to promote this person that's on the right. And so the polls are rigged, or these are funded polls that make it look like this.
Honey, she's a pollster. She got it wrong. By the way, she had been right like 7 out of the last 10 times. So when people saw that poll, they're like, wow, okay, maybe Iowa's got a chance of being a battleground state. It turns out it wasn't. Donald Trump won by over 10 points, and she was wrong. But shit happens, man. It's not something fucking nefarious in the Des Moines registry.
Person on the right is winning by a substantial margin, and what this does is decreases the motivation that people have to come out and vote against them.
That's happening.
So it's fake.
By the way, that happens right now.
It is happening right now, and I think, is that part of what he's suing them about?
No, but doesn't look.
But isn't that what he's suing them about?
Well, he's suing ABC for one thing.
But with the Des Moines Register about the poll.
I know the poll's there.
Was the poll incorrect?
Yeah, the poll was wrong. So what?
Right.
Guess what?
But what did they know it was incorrect when they published it?
Jesus Christ, man.
No, they published what they thought was an accurate poll. But that pollster, by the way, what's the name? Seltzer polls.
I should just state for the record, I don't know this lawsuit.
I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to expand on it and expound on it and just act like I do for 5 fucking minutes. But you don't know anything about it.
Right, what it was about.
But I am aware that in talking to people that understand polls, that some of these are politically.
All right, but the answer is yes and no. There are polls right now doing exactly what you say.
Right.
I could doctor a poll. I could talk to more conservative, more progressive.
Like Rasmussen, notoriously a very Republican pollster. You know, when they predicted the election, they predicted that Donald Trump would win by 70 points, is something obscene. And he didn't. Donald Trump didn't even win a majority of the votes. He got like 49.5%. Kamala Harris won like 48.2%. He didn't even get the majority. He got a plurality of votes.
People get the results that I kind of want, right?
And they do it to motivate people or demotivate people to vote, and it's effective.
It has an impact. All right. On the other hand, this particular poster, that's the Des Moines Register, not a huge newspaper. I bumped into them because when you're running Democratic primaries, Iowa is a big deal. They are a very, very respected pollster. Okay, they don't doctor polls. So they made a mistake on a poll. It turns out they had Trump doing worse than he ended up doing. Guess what? Posters, honest posters, make mistakes too.
But what is the basis?
What's his face from 535? He is notorious for getting polls wrong. He said that Hillary Clinton had a 95% chance of winning in 2016, and they went to that guy over and over again. And yet again, he was constantly wrong. Does you see anybody suing him?
His lawsuit, like what is he saying in the lawsuit?
I think he is saying that gave energy to his opponents, and that it was. He's
like
saying,
we talked about.
Like you talked about, but I don't believe that's the case.
Yeah, because it's the exact opposite. Because if you are a Republican voter in Iowa and you see a poll come out saying that your guy is down by 4 points, it's going to inspire you to vote more, not stay home. If you're really interested in getting Donald Trump elected and you're a Republican and a Trump supporter and you see that poll, you're going to be like, oh, well, shit, I was thinking about staying home today, but no, hell no, I'm going out to vote. So it's literally the opposite of what he's saying.
There are honest pollsters who make mistakes.
But what about the other the other lawsuit with the conversation that they had with Kamala Harris?
Okay, let's get to that. First of all, I want you guys to remember this one, okay? Talking about editing, this is Joe Rogan's thing. The Kamala Harris interview on 60 Minutes was edited, and they need to be sued for, I think the number's like $20 billion. It's something absolutely outrageous. $20 billion because they edited a video, which, by the way, lots of news organizations edit things down for time. You know, if a politician or somebody is talking and rambling on like I'm doing right now, they tend to chop it up a little bit and put in the most important parts. There was nothing nefarious about it. But if you want to see some nefarious editing, let's take a look at this, okay? This is Donald Trump before the election, and he is being asked about which files, which secret files he's going to declassify.
Department of Education, let it be run locally. We have this
end
mess.
the Department of Education? Federal Department?
End it, other than to have a little tiny coordination. That's going to happen immediately.
Okay, so Kat, he says that will happen immediately, cutting the Department of Education.
Wait a minute.
What do you
Did I
think
get the
about
wrong
that?
one?
That's a view that I've had for a while, right? And it was always kind of seen as a radical view.
Shit.
But I don't know after
here
what
it is.
happened during COVID how that could be seen as radical.
Sorry about that, folks.
Files.
Yeah.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
God,
Shop.
Declassified Jeffrey Epstein files? What do you think?
That was the edited version. Fox News edited version. Let's see the rest of it, shall we?
Would you declassify? If you were president, would you declassify? You can answer yes or no to these.
Yeah.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you?
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. but I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
9/11, yeah.
Yep, that's right, folks. Anyway, so talk about deceptive editing. That's pretty deceptive. Should Kamala Harris be able to sue Donald Trump or sue Fox News for that editing? I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? But Joe Rogan either doesn't know that, and it's very possible he's taken too many hits to the head of drugs or punches, or he is just lying. I don't know. You may have to make your own mind on that, but you saw it for yourself.
Edited the answers that she had to make it look more precise.
60 Minutes, they were suing 60 Minutes.
Yes.
Is, to my mind, historically, even around for a very long time, they're not infallible. But I think you look at most objective people will say 60 Minutes has a sterling reputation for investigative journalism. Are they wrong?
But that's not investigative journalism if you change someone's answers. If you ask her a question and she comes with a rambling answer that doesn't make sense, and you edit that out and insert another answer to a different question that seems more cogent.
All right, Joe,
All right, let's just put this to bed right now. Let's have a look-see, okay? Looking at Sky News, and Sky News is notoriously a very conservative British news program or news media, and they show the edited and unedited version of Kamala Harris's answer. And I will preface this by saying I get why they edit it, because Kamala Harris was rambling. They asked her a question that she didn't really have a very good answer for, and they cut out some of her rambling and they made it a little bit more succinct. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying this is what news organizations do all the time, including for Donald Trump. And suing them over editing out rambling. Okay, but anyway, just to have a look. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Hold on for a second. Hold on. Let me go back. I forgot the mute button. Let's fix that. Here we go. God damn it.
With the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles. Well, let's start with this. On this subject, the aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And I think that is the most recent example of why what we do to assist in their defense around military aid is important. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Now, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire.
So that's what
the
you
work
said?
that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles. Well, let's start with this.
So they cut out about 50 seconds of the same answer, and they just left in the last 10 seconds. That is what Donald Trump is suing over. That right there. That little bit of pettiness. Yeah, man. Kamala Harris was rambling. It was a long, drawn-out answer to a question that she really didn't want to answer. Because what Joe Biden was doing with Israel and Gaza was just as bad, almost as bad, as what Donald Trump is doing right now. Nevertheless, that's the editing, and this, according to Joe Rogan, that is a good enough reason to sue. Even though we saw the answer that Donald Trump gave on Fox News about the Epstein file, and then how they chopped off where he looks a little wishy-washy. Yeah, I get rid of 9/11. Yeah, I mean, I would release a 9/11. Yeah, JFK, I've already released a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I would do the Epstein. Well, maybe not all of the Epstein. I mean, some of it's lies, and some of those people might be, I mean, they might be innocent, and you never know who's in there. It might be, it might be bad for them, and I mean, no less so for the Epstein files. So they cut out his wishy-washiness. Did you see Kamala Harris suing Fox News? No, you didn't, because she's more of a fucking adult than whining, crying Donald Trump. And Joe Rogan, he's got Trump's phone number, man. They're boys. They're buds, man. He's in the club, and he's going to do everything he can to defend it. God damn, man. COVID rotted his brain, and Austin, Texas, and hanging out with a bunch of billionaires hasn't helped either.
You're walking down, you're walking down a dangerous path. Suing media has the impact of intimidating media. All right, if somebody sues you, all right, let me finish, all right?
Okay.
Somebody sues you, why not you? You could be sued tomorrow, right? Because you are doing this. You're too sympathetic to this.
Right.
And Joe, you did that, and they have a big law firm behind you. You're going to have to spend zillions of dollars defending yourself. You know what? Next time you do an interview, you say, maybe I'm not going to go in that area. Right?
No, but it's not that. It's editing things.
Jesus Christ, he won't.
Editing.
Joe,
so in deceptive editing,
I don't
you
know,
give people a different perception of who this candidate is than reality.
All right, but
the answer Kamala Harris gave in the full answer and in the edited answer was basically saying the same thing. It was a word salad about supporting Israel. Either way, she didn't look good. But either way, it's not a suable fucking offense, man. It's just not.
But that's not objective journalism.
I know, but
that's campaigning for that person.
Right, but
Sean Hannity would go on Donald Trump's campaigns. He would stand on stage with Donald Trump. He would intra-fucking-deuce Donald Trump at his rallies. You see anybody on 60 Minutes going on stage with Kamala Harris? No, you didn't. That's the shit that right-wingers do, man. Your Megyn Kellys, your Laura Ingrams, your Sean Hannitys, they will all go out there and speak for Donald Trump. Talk about news media bias. They're literally going to Republican campaigns, a news person advertising for one particular president. Come on, man. What the fuck are we talking about?
Do you agree with that?
I don't have those details. I don't know that I agree with your analysis of it. I don't know enough.
I think that's universally accepted that that's what they did.
Then you got to tell me why he is suing ABC.
No, he's wrong.
Why he's suing Meta.
Let's just talk about the 60 Minutes.
No, let's go back to talking about what I'm talking about.
ABC, but I'm not aware of that.
He's not aware of it, and he doesn't want to talk about that because he doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't know anything about this either because I just showed you the fucking clip. Joe Rogan is like he's like a copy of a copy of a copy, He's like a CD copied over 3 times. Or he's been playing the goddamn telephone game, where, one person says something and then it goes down a line of 20 people until it gets to Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan is like, yeah, whatever he said. I have no fucking idea. I have no clue. I've just been listening to too many idiots for the last 3 years and my brain don't work no more.
George Stephanopoulos said something that he didn't like. But the point is,
what did Stephanopoulos say?
I just told you what George Stephanopoulos said. He said that Donald Trump is criminally liable for sexual assault, and he should have just said liable for sexual assault. What's the difference? It was about grabbing a woman by the pussy, which Donald Trump said in 2016, which everybody said, oh, it's locker room talk. It's not a big deal. It's just locker room talk. He literally did it to that woman. He literally grabbed her down there. It's fucking sexual assault. And he lost the case. Now, of course, he's got it on appeal, but the judge gave him the out that it's, civilly liable as opposed to criminally liable. It's just another way of saying you fucking manhandled her and stuck your hand in the holiest of holies, which it did not belong and you didn't get permission for. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's fucking assault. That's sexual assault. But, Donald Trump's like, oh my God, how dare you say that about me? Oh my, let me clutch my pearls. Oh my God, how dare you? I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue your whole company for millions and millions of dollars.
I honestly don't remember. But
Well, I think what he was saying was factually incorrect about the results of one of Trump's trials.
all right, guess what? If I were to sue everybody who said things that were factually incorrect about me, I'd be suing people zillions of times.
Right, but
Joe, what you're saying is, look, does media get it wrong sometimes? Absolutely. Should you have the most powerful person in America suing media? What is the impact of that? The impact is clearly intimidation. He wants to defund public broadcasting, NPR. Why is that? Well, because they also would run critical stories of him. This is part, in my view, without getting into any one case, it's part of a pattern that says, hey, I got the power. Don't you criticize me. You criticize me, I'm going to sue you. So it's not whether this show was right or wrong. There are shows every day they get it wrong. It's whether you respect you and other media people to do the best that you can. And if I don't like what you're doing, I'll go someplace else. But I don't like presidents suing media, and then it's, threatening to impeach judges who rule against you. Really? Is that a concern? I think it's a concern.
I agree, that's a concern. Well, my concern is when you have media organizations.
See, it doesn't matter what you say to Joe. He will immediately go back to the defense. There's another segment in here, a little shorter segment in here that I wanted to address. They start talking about money in politics. Let's see if I can get to it here.
There's probably a few overseers that make sure that all the systems are functioning correctly. So you have software engineers and people that repair people, but the trucks even. Hold on. There's no need for these people, and what happens, even with universal basic income, what we're talking about, I support it. I'm a big supporter of social safety nets. Look, when I was a kid, my family.
By the way, you just gave a shiatsu and a grease down and voted for and endorsed a guy right now who is cutting the social safety net. Congratulations, Joe. You're doing wonderful. Now, and by the way, you got your boy Elon Musk constantly on your show, giving him a rub down too, telling him what a big brave boy he is, cupping the balls and stroking the shaft, man. You think he's a fucking genius? Is literally the reason why you moved to Austin, Texas was because of Elon fucking Musk. And I mean, okay, let's do it. Let's get into it. Just want to throw this out there for you. These are Doge cuts. He fired air traffic controllers, and then he wanted to get rid of the Verizon contract so he could have Starlink take over the, take over for the FAA. Great idea. We have 7 plane crashes in the first couple of months. He cut the CFPB, that's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That is the scam police where banks and credit cards scam you, the consumer, out of money. They were able to, in a very short time, get 20 billion, with a B, back from credit card companies and banks that scammed American citizens, got them $20 billion, put it in their pocket. And I was one of those people that actually got a couple of bucks back because a bank tried to charge me for some bullshit. And it turns out of the blue, I just get a check in the mail for like $150 saying, hey, you got scammed out of this by your bank. We're really sorry about it. Here's some cash. Thank you very much, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. He fired the nuclear safety regulators, the guys that handle our nuclear weapons, and then they had to go beg the head guy to come back because they couldn't figure out anybody that knew how to work this thing. Because all he's gotten, Elon Musk has got in his stables, is a bunch of 20-year-olds who are still picking their boogers, man, and playing on the goddamn computer. He cut child cancer research, he cut 50% of the Social Security offices and cut off the phone lines. So now 85-year-old grandmas who used to be able to call the Social Security office with their, by phone, now have to figure out how to do it on computers. Good job. He cut meals on fucking wheels. Elon Musk and Doge cut meals on wheels. He got rid of food safety inspectors. Yeah, man, just basic food safety to make sure that you don't get E. coli or salmonella, He destroyed FEMA. There are states, all red states across the country right now, including North Carolina. Remember Helena came through in 2024, screamed and yelled about Biden not being able to give him any services. They are begging Donald Trump right now going, hey, man, we still need the money. Our neighborhoods are still decimated. Could you please send us some money? He's like, nope, FEMA's done. We're going to give it back to the states. Let the states handle it. So FEMA's been gutted. Department of Education, he's trying to kill that with the wrestling lady. He's fired 250,000 federal government public workers. Just fired them outright. Had to hire some of them back because they fired him illegally and they have to give them back pay and then the whole lawsuit of it. So they're not really saving any money. They're just causing a lot of trauma. Fired out of those, 80,000 of those people were United States veterans. Don't tell me you give a shit about veterans. You only care about them when they're out there shooting their guns. Well, when they come home, you say, fuck you. So those people, 80,000 veterans got fired. He cut medical and scientific research, and he cut the USAID, which started this whole damn thing off, saying it was some kind of spy agency. But for the most part, USAID or USAID is a soft power initiative to provide poor countries with vaccines or medication, especially places like Africa where AIDS is running rampant. And instead of, letting them all fucking die off, we'd give them medication, like pennies on the dollar. Didn't cost us hardly anything, but you're keeping people alive. People have died. People are going to die for lack of medication because we got rid of the USAID. That's what your boy Elon Musk did. The boy that you keep bringing on your goddamn show to just praise and honor and worship at the altar of a tech bro billionaire. That's your guy, Joe. That's your fucking guy. Good job, man.
Welfare. And we were on food stamps too. Like, if you don't have that, people go hungry. Like, if we're going to support the community, we want people to be able to survive and be able to work their way out of that. My family did work their way out of that. So it was cool for me as a child to see my parents struggling, but then succeed and get out of it. What worries me is that if all the jobs are gone and everything gets automated, even if people have universal basic income, they don't have meaning.
Good.
I mean, honestly, what Joe is basically saying is, hey, it was having a social safety net was really good for me, but, there's a lot of other people out there just going to abuse the system. And, just a couple of years ago, I saw a Joe Rogan clip where he's like, I don't believe in universal basic income because it's all a bunch of freeloaders, And, all these people out here just, take. He was saying that a couple of years ago, but now he's standing in front of Bernie Sanders, and he knows Bernie Sanders is all about the social safety net, so now he's playing to Bernie Sanders. This guy does not have a fucking free thought in his head that is not given to him by somebody else, man.
You're touching on really deep issues.
Right. This is the big one because a lot of people, you want to get your car fixed, you go to KC. He's the best. He knows how to fix your car. KC.
And work gives, as you've just said, it's the word purpose is an enormously
It's
important.
huge.
I don't care if you sweep the streets. People have purpose. They want to do their job well. Work is an important part of our lives.
Right.
Is it right?
Yes.
At the end of the day,
it's your identity a lot of times.
Right.
Yeah.
And you want to be a productive member of society.
Right.
I'm contributing.
Right.
All right. So you asked the right question. And I think we can just bat around. I don't have any, quick answers here. But I think the good news, you talk about this coal mining thing, and I'm not a great fan of coal, but,
Look, ultimately, universal basic income is, let's just make sure that people have enough food and clothing and shelter, you know, just in case AI or automation takes your job away. It should be benefiting you, you know. It should be, you know, we should be doing technology not to make the billionaire types more money. We should be doing technology to benefit the rest of us. You know, the person who earns all the fruits of everyone else's labor is the owner of the shop. And if he wants to automate it and fire everybody just so he can keep all of the wealth, I mean, what kind of greedy society are we living in? Do you not want, is technology supposed to make our lives better, make our lives easier? Or is it just here to serve, you know, the top 1%? I mean, that is Bernie's argument. And Joe Rogan is under the impression that there are a lot of freeloaders out there, and, you know, they want some health care, they want some social safety, they want food stamps like you got, Joe. Well, you know, maybe they are to get off their ass and do something about it. I mean, anyway, I wish that Joe Rogan had not been, you know, so goddamn brainwashed and brain broken by COVID and has gone on this long continuous arc to the right. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish that Joe Rogan had brought on more people that had opposing views as opposed to constantly listening to the same kind of person. You know, I wish that Joe Rogan, who, by the way, that video right there, you know, at this point is 1.9 million views. When you have that many people listening to you, you have a responsibility to make sure that the information that you put out there is real and genuine. You know, to fact check a little bit. You should have, I mean, that is a lot of power. You should be awed and awe-inspired to make sure that you get it right, as opposed to constantly just going out there and, you know, spilling some bullshit. Look, if you want to talk to comedians and fighters and entertainers and sports guys, you say whatever the fuck you want, have a good time. But if you're going to be dipping into politics and every other answer is like, well, I don't really know anything about it, but you end up talking about it for 15 to 20 minutes. You need to be a little bit more prepared. If you're going to be interviewing the future president of the United States and he lies to your face a dozen fucking times and you don't push back on him at all, either because you don't want to or you don't know any better, you are not prepared for the moment. You should not be interviewing him. Young Joe Rogan from years ago used to know, hey man, I'm not prepared enough. I don't know enough to be talking to politicians. But last year he said, you know what? I think I'm ready for an interview with Donald Trump. I think I'm ready for it. And then you brought him on there and he dog walked you, man. He gave you the smile, he gave you the Donald Trump charm, and you bought everything. You just swallowed it right on down. And now you have just been caught in this right-wing bubble for such a long time that even somebody who is patient as Bernie Sanders, who's desperately trying to crack through that blockhead of yours to put some actual real statistical information and real data in there, you're impervious to it, man. You know. Anyway, I'm glad that he is not the number one podcaster in America anymore. I believe the Midas Touch took that title from him, and more people watch the Midas Touch than Joe Rogan now. So, like I said earlier in the show, that the vibes have shifted. The vibes in 2024 were heading towards Trump. And now that we in America have seen what Donald Trump and his minions are doing to destroy democracy and wipe his ass with the goddamn Constitution, the vibes have shifted. And many more, not just leftists like me, but like liberal, tote bag carrying wine moms are on the street wearing fucking Luigi shirts and, saying tax the rich and, get the fuck out of here, you fascist, and, get Elon Musk out of my goddamn Social Security. These are like normie Dems who are not swayed by very much at all. They barely have time to put down their goddamn Chardonnay glass to even do anything. Now these people are on the street. They're radicalized. They're ready to go. So the vibes have shifted. And, earlier we just had Zoran Mandami win in New York City, and he is a democratic socialist. I think that there's a big movement in the United States right now. And we might very well this might be the beginning of the Democratic Tea Party. I know that the Republican Tea Party was quite astroturfed by the Koch brothers. They put them on buses and they brought them out and they gave them signs to hold to say, "Get your government hands off my Medicare," which I think is absolutely hilarious and super ironic. But that was an astroturf thing that actually turned into a real agenda of grievance culture. But with Zoran Mandami and the leftward shift that we're seeing and all the protests that are happening in LA and all across the country with the No Kings thing, I am seeing a shift in the vibes. And I don't think that the Republicans are going to have they're going to do their fascist shit for the next year and a half until the next election, but we very well could see a blowout in November of 2026. And, it's people like Joe Rogan who helped usher this fascism in. I don't know if they'll ever learn their lesson. He just had Bernie Sanders give him 2 hours worth of, "Hey man, I'm trying to be gentle with you. I'm trying to teach you a little something here, but you're not listening to me. You're really defending your boys, and you're kind of part of the club. You're screaming about the establishment, yet you are defending the establishment. Donald Trump is literally the establishment. He's the president." So anyway, good on Bernie for giving it a shot. I got to say that I love Bernie. He does look a little tired there, but after talking to Joe Rogan, I would be pretty exasperated as well. I don't know how he does it, man. He's on an oligarchy tour. He's hitting cities all over the place. At the end of the interview, he's like, "Okay, you got anything else for me? Okay, I'm leaving. I got a plane to catch. I got another group of people to talk to that actually listen to me instead of you blockhead Joe." Anyway, good on Bernie for giving it a shot. Anyway, that's the show for the day, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I really appreciate you sticking around and watching. I hope that you learned something and you had a good time. If you wouldn't mind, please liking and subscribing. I would really appreciate it. It very much helps me out in the algorithm. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. You take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.